Good morning, or whatever time it is that you're watching this. I don't know why I did an accent. So this is a somewhat early mid-year Freakout booktube not challenge, tag thing. It's not exactly halfway through the year yet, but I'm probably only going to read like 2 more books during the month of June, so but I will be having like a recap video for April, May, and June at the end of June, hopefully. So, I have read 31 books this year, which is actually pretty crazy for me because my reading goal is 50 books, and last year I only went over it by 6. And now I know you're going to say, that is a lot of books. I know it is. But compared to other booktubers, which I know I shouldn't be comparing myself, but like, it is always crazy to me when I see like, oh, 17 books I read this month. And I'm like, that takes me 3 months to read that amount of books, even if, like, it's crazy to me. And I have made a document of all of the questions and all of my answers. So, let's get into the mid-year freakout. So, first question is best book you've read so far in 2025. Now, I'm going to say I have had no 5 stars yet out of the 31 books that I have read this year, and that is because I am, for some reason, extremely picky with my 5 stars. I think last year I only had 2 5 stars, and they were back to back, and they were by M.L. Wong. I have found no 5 stars, but the closest that I have gotten that wasn't in a series that ended up not finishing as well as I wanted it to. The book that is the closest now is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. So, how do I even describe this book? Brandon Sanderson is going to be on this list a lot, okay? He's like one of my go-to authors for a comfort fantasy or just a really unique world and really good characters. So, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, how do I describe this? So you have Yumi, who is within this like religious world where she's this, I forget the exact name of it, but basically she stacks rocks in like kind of a mathematical but artistic way, and it draws spirits into her world, and she transforms them into things that the people of the village that she has traveled to need. And the reason that they need these spirits is because they live in a land where they have to wear really thick shoes because the ground is so hot that if you poured water on it, it would instantly boil. So they have floating plants, that they need different kind of lights and all this, so they're kind of somewhat dependent on Yumi and this, her religion and stuff. So she like, her entire life has been conformed to it and following like all of the directions and stuff. And then you go to Painter, who is within this shrouded world where there are these people called nightmare painters who they paint the nightmares that come out of the shroud. Basically, the shroud will create these like monsters, and they'll come out into the streets and stuff to try and harvest like people's memories or dreams, but they have to come out enough times to become stable, which is basically they've come out and gotten enough memories and stuff that they can actually attack people. So they end up somehow switching like bodies and worlds where Painter is within Yumi's body, but everybody sees Yumi and Yumi is a ghost next to him. And then in Painter's world, everybody sees Yumi, but Painter is a ghost in that world. So it kind of goes from there of them trying to figure out what's happening in each other's worlds, and it's so well done. It's more sci-fi leaning than fantasy. I would say it definitely does have fantastical elements, but I feel like it definitely doesn't lean as much into fantasy like a lot of his other books do. It's a very good book. It is a part of the Cosmere, and there are references to other books that you might not be able to pick up on if you only read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, but at the same time I do know that it is a lot to get into the Cosmere, so if you're looking for just a fun book and maybe not understanding all of the references in it, there's not a ton, but it is still very fun even by itself. So I would say read it even if you don't know other books by Brandon Sanderson or haven't read any other books by him. So, anyways, the second question, best sequel you have read so far in 2025. Now, this series gave me nothing but pain, and I really don't like the way that it ended for a certain character and also just in general, and that is Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Last Hours trilogy. Okay, this book was a 4.75, okay, and the reason I don't have that as my best book I've read so far in 2025 is because of the way that this series ended and kind of made the second book, made me reflect on it. Now, I might actually change the rating because which I hate so much because the second book is so good. I loved it so much. But now I'm like questioning how much I really did like it because of the third book and kind of the way that certain tropes and relationships were ended. And but I will say I have not been reading too many, that's a lie. I have been reading series, but I've been reading ones that are longer, so they basically, it's 7 books, and I'm not like, oh, the sequel's better than the first book, which hasn't really been happening for me personally. A lot of the times the first book is better than majority of the rest of the series, but I love the characters so much that I stick along with it. So anyways, the next question is new release you haven't read yet but want to. Now, there's sadly a lot of these, but because of how expensive hardcovers are, I don't have a lot of them, and I also don't have room on my bookshelves. But the first one is Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. That is the third book in the Legendborn. I don't think it's called the Legendborn saga. I think it's called something different. I'm so sorry. But I don't know where I stand with that series, but I do enjoy it. I do not like the second book as much as the first, but that happens in a lot of series. I have heard that the third book has kind of decisive opinions on it. I've heard a lot of people who either really love it or just meh. I don't know if it is the final book in the series. It might have been upgraded to being 4 books within the series, but I do really love the world that it is set in. It's based off of a King Arthur, kind of, not necessarily like a full retelling, but it is based off of King Arthur mythology and stuff at this school, and we're kind of going from there. I don't know what to say because I don't want to spoil it, and a lot of the things that come to my mind to describe it are spoilers for it, so I should have wrote down a synopsis for this, but I am excited to read the third book. But anyways, the next book that I'm also nervous to read is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. The amount of people that I have seen who have been like, this book is not good. I have read all 4 of the Stormlight Archives. This is the 5th book, and I believe the end of the first arc within the Stormlight Archives. I don't know what that means, and I'm terrified to know what it does mean. Brandon Sanderson loves giving pain, especially to my baby boy Kaladin, which, from the setting or his adventure within the book, I can already tell you I'm probably not going to like it as much as the first 4 books, because he's going on a quest and he's not going to be with everybody else. But I have seen people who've rated it 5 stars, though, so that should give me hope, right? Right? But I adore this series so much. Each one of these is over 1,000 pages. I even heard that he had to get a new printing thing for just to even publish this book. So I'm terrified to read that, but it is on my 25 for 25, and I really do want to read it. It's just, it's so long, and also, I don't know about you, but I don't want to read 1,000-page hardcover. Personally, no, because all of the Stormlight Archives, even the little pocket book one, or mass market ones that I have, are nice and floppy, and it already hurts my hand to read those, so I can't imagine reading a hardcover version of it. And then the next book is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I read the One Dark Window duology. I've heard that this book The Night and the Moth is not as good as One Dark Window. I've heard a lot of people say that they didn't feel like the relationship in it was well done, that it was more insta-lovey, or that they didn't see these two characters actually being together, like maybe they didn't have chemistry and stuff. I just want a fun book to read, and Rachel Gillig supplied me that with One Dark Window, and I just want another fun book to read. So, like, as much as I sadly do get influenced by a lot of other people's opinions on books, just because, like, once somebody points something out that they don't like in a book, my brain will also do that and be like, look at it. So I would hope that I can form my own opinion on all of these, but just the amount of times that I've seen so many different opinions about all of these books, and it makes me terrified to read any of them. Biggest disappointment. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that the next book that I put for biggest disappointment is actually, like, I wasn't expecting this to be, like, really good, but that is Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. Now, I haven't read If We Were Villains, which I know is a sin within the book community, and nor should I have read this as her first book, because I've heard If We Were Villains is probably, like, a bajillion times better than Graveyard Shift, which, like, from reading this, I would hope so. I said when I was reading this, I think that this would have heavily benefited from being longer, from being like a full book, because the idea is very interesting. This whole, like, fungus taking over this town thing is very interesting, and I think that the relationships in this had the boneworks of being really good. It's just because it was a short little novella that was under 200 pages, or just barely over 200 pages, it didn't feel like anybody actually formed that real of a connection to anybody, and it would have been so much better if it had just been a longer, full book. And I understand the idea that she was going for. I think it's a cool idea. I just think that with the amount of characters, the amount of relationships that she was also trying to fit into this was not doing good. So that's what I thought on Graveyard Shift. I think I gave that like 2 stars. I'm not going to base my judgment on M.L. Rio based off of just that book. Okay, I'm going to give her another shot. But the next book that was a big disappointment this year was An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. Now, I have read Vespertine and Sorcery of Thorns by her, and then also Mysteries of Thorn Manor by her. So I've basically read majority of her works, and I really, really loved Vespertine, which I know some people don't really like, but I don't know. Something about a nun with magical powers is pretty dope to me, okay? So I enjoyed all of those other books, but this, you can very much tell that it's one of her, like, first or earliest books, and it just, like, it felt very fast-paced within the relationship, and it had a good idea. It just felt very, like, not necessarily not, like, well written, but it didn't feel very fully thought out. It felt a little bit rushed in some places, and yeah, I just was surprised when I read it because I really didn't like it. Now, I will say, I do not like most YAs, and I know I just talked about how I read all of her books and those are YAs, but for some reason there's certain YAs that, like, I can't get through, and this was one of them, even though I did finish it. But I also don't like Fae that much, so there's a lot of things going against this book, so I don't think I'm the one to give it that fair of a judgment because of the things that I don't typically like within books. So I will say that, but it is a bigger disappointment to me because of how much I do like her other books. It's just, like, kind of shocking to me that I was not loving it, because I'm used to, like, really loving her characters and relationships and stuff, but I don't know, within that it wasn't for me. The next books are for the biggest surprise. Now, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. He also wrote The Martian, which is also a movie now, but this is centering around the Earth is dying, or the sun is dying, and they don't know why, and they're trying to figure it out, and our protagonist wakes up in a spaceship out in the middle of space, having amnesia, no idea who he is, where he's going, and he kind of has to work through the memories that are coming back to him, work through all of the information that's on this ship, and kind of figure out a way to still help Earth, even though he has, like, no idea what's happening. Now, I really was surprised by this book because, listen, I've heard so many people talk about how this should be, like, the first sci-fi that you read because it's so good and it'll get you into sci-fi, which I absolutely agree with, but I will say, I don't know if it's the first one that you should get into, and it's not because it's, like, complicated or anything like that, but because it will make you not feel satisfied by any other sci-fi books. Okay, this book was so good, and I read, like, a couple more sci-fis after it, and none of them met that, okay? And I know it's not a good thing to hold one book to others, but, like, listen, you're gonna give me this good of a book and not expect me to remember it every time I'm reading another sci-fi? Like, it was so good, and I also love space, I love scientific stuff, and I feel like this explained everything really well, and was very well written. It also has comedy within it, even though it's in this, like, really stressful situation, and I feel like it's not confusing at all to follow. It's really good. I also really loved our main character and another character within this, and it is definitely, like, an outrageous situation, and some of the things that are happening are definitely, like, you're like, I don't think that would actually happen if this was happening, but it's still really good, really fun, and it's now, the next book is The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monika Kim. I DNF'd this, okay? And now, I did go back and finish it, and why is that? Because of my beautiful, beautiful friend with the same name, Abby, who, we were doing a readathon thing, I think, and it was like, oh, choose a book that you've DNF'd and finish it. Now, I don't know the reason why I DNF'd this. I think I was just cycling through a lot of books and was in kind of a book slump and not really... I had read maybe 5 pages of the first part of this, and I was like, and I just went away, and I did not come back to it until, like, a couple months later. Now, because I had only gotten 5 pages in, the rest of this was absolutely insane. This is a horror book, okay, and it does have topics of cannibalism and also racism. So, how do I even describe this? Basically, our main character's dad has left, and her mom is kind of going through this whole crisis, and so she meets this white dude who went up to her at her job, which is at, like, a Asian supermarket, and her mom, like, brings him home, and both of the daughters are like, this dude has an Asian fetish, and the way that he, like, compliments himself on, like, butchering their language, and also, like, the way that he gives the girls nicknames instead of actually pronouncing their names. He does so many microaggressions or just straight up racism, and our main character starts dreaming about his blue eyes. So it's insane. It's insane. Okay, I will say, if you don't like gruesome, like, I don't know if it's necessarily body horror, but, like, it's, what's the word for that? I don't even know. It's disfiguration. There's cannibalism. That's all you need to know, okay? Okay, there's multiple factors to this. Our main character's also getting stalked by this weird dude. She has this, like, best friend that she goes to her apartment with, and, like, it's a lot, but it is really fun, and I was very surprised by it because, again, I DNF'd it, and I was like, oh, that's probably not going to be for me, and then I read it, and I was like, oh, this is definitely for me. But the next book that I read is very, very recent, which is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman, Dugdale Dimmadome of the Dimmadome. I don't know how to fully pronounce his last name. You'll notice that I'm very bad with names also, so, like, forgive me if I mispronounce anybody's name, okay? This book has been raved about so much, especially on Katie is Reading, who, like, I have a lot of shared favorites with her, so I gave this a chance, okay? This is about Carl, who is outside, and he's in underwear and his girlfriend's pink Crocs, and he's trying to get his girlfriend's cat, Persian cat, down from a tree. And as he's doing this, all the building around him collapse, and all the people inside of it die. And then text shows up for him being like, hey, so either you can, like, scavenge around on this, like, messed up plane of the earth and there's going to be like barely any food or anything, or you can come down into these dungeons and play our games and be on our alien TV show. So he's like, oh, it's freezing outside, I'm only in like a robe and underwear, I'm gonna go inside where it's warm, and he takes the cat with him. It's crazy. Okay, but it is very fun. It has a lot of sarcasm, and I will say some of the jokes didn't land with me, but that happens a lot in a lot of comedic books where it's like constantly, it's not super constant, but where it's like there's always like a wisecrack or a sarcasm or all of that. Not every single joke is going to land with me, but I still had a very good time reading this, and just the characters are really good, and also it's the craziest concept ever, but it is so unique and fun, and I love Princess Donuts. Okay. So those are the ones that have surprised me the most, and it's not necessarily I was going into them being like, oh, this is gonna be bad, but it is. I went into them and I was kind of like, it's another book, but I got very surprised by like how much I like them, especially with Dungeon Crawler Kara, because I've been craving to read the next book, but I haven't been able to because of, library books coming in. But anyways, the next category, or the next question, is new favorite author. I have a couple of them, but the one that has stuck out the most is Deanna Rayborn. Again, I'm so sorry if I mispronounce anybody's name. I'm horrible with names. And she's the author of the Veronica Speedwell series. I have full-on got addicted to these books this year. I am currently reading book 7. There are 9 books within this, and I started the first one in January. I'll let you figure out how fast that is. For me, it's very quick, okay? I have adored this series so much. She writes such strong female characters, and then also relationships and their banters, and then also the mysteries, because this is a mystery series set within the Victorian era, so the 1800s, and it's so good. It's so good. The mysteries are always really fun and enticing. The banter between Veronica and Stoker is really good. I love her. I will also say, Monika Kim, I did really love that book, and the way that she kind of connects certain issues that she's talking about, and then also just like the way that she ended that book was so good. I feel in love with her. She's so good, okay? And I don't really know what else to say. I'm at a loss for words. The next question is newest fictional crush. I don't have a lot of these this year, which is very funny. I don't typically read books and be like, oh my gosh, they're like so hot. No, I typically, whenever I read a book and I see somebody who's like, I don't know, respectful and cool and like listens to other people and is very like communicative with that person, or is very kind of respectful and soft with the person when they're going through hard stuff, that tends to be the characters that I fall in love with the most. And I tend not to really get any crushes on book characters. I'm not sitting there and I'm like thinking about them like in fantasies later. Like that's not what I do. If I had to decide, one of them is Stoker from Veronica Speedwell. This man, beautiful. I love him so much because, again, this series is set during Victorian era. It's set in England, and it's very interesting to see him because he kind of opposes a lot of the politics of the time, and he's like, he supports women's rights. He supports Veronica's like want to not get married, and like he also is a scientist and buff. He's such a like well-written, well-rounded, beautiful male character, and also his banter with Veronica and like their whole relationship is so good. Now, this one is kind of a little bit of a reach for me, but Painter from Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, I don't know, it's just so much about him is so like endearing to me, and he like the amount of effort that he puts into like try and help Yumi, and the like courage that he has and the way that he does things, it's just, I really love him. I love him so much. I don't know if it's necessarily like a crush, but like I do absolutely adore him. Also, him and Yumi's relationship is so cute and good, and I never typically sit down and expect like a really good romance from Brandon Sanderson, but every time he does a decent job, and in this book it was really well done, and I just really loved their connection. But anyways, newest favorite characters. So I only really have two, because a lot of the times when I'm reading books, the characters are supposed to annoy you, but there's some times where I'm like, I don't know if I love them as so much that I'm gonna put them on this list, because a lot of them annoy me so much that I'm like, listen, I still love you, but like, I'm not putting you on my list. So my newest favorite characters, because I have two, is Princess Donut from Dungeon Crawler. She's a talking cat. That's all you really need to know, okay? She's a talking cat. She's a Persian talking cat who is a cat show award winner before all of this happens, and her banter is so good. I love her so much, because she, like, the certain things that she does and doesn't understand about humans, and like the way that she has so much confidence within this horrible situation. She's so good. I love her as a sidekick. I love her as she's somewhat a main character, and just kind of the way that she like doesn't help problem solve, but like she also does. And then the next character that I have is Rocky from Project Hail Mary. Now I don't want to say more about him because it's kind of a spoiler, but I don't know, he was just so cute, and he was also so smart, and just like I was so happy with like the ending of the book, with the way that certain things happen. I adore him. Okay, I adore Rocky so much. We're gonna move on to the next book or category, which is books that made you cry. So, Beartown and Us Against You. Basically, everything that I've read from Fredrik Backman so far, which has been those two books, has made me cry. Okay, this man loves making you cry. Now, I will say this is kind of a different thing from what I typically read. I do think that these lean more contemporary. They're not like sci-fi or fantasy. They are based on not real people, but real kind of events that happen, and there's like no fantastical elements about them, but these books just hurt so bad. I will say a trigger warning for these is sexual assault and homophobia. So, like, please look up the trigger warnings for these two books before you read them, but they made me cry my eyes out, okay? The way that he connects characters, and the way that he, like, the families and stuff come together, and the whole town also, like, this is based off of an ice hockey team in this town where that's, like, basically everybody's lives, and the captain, or like the best player of it, sexually assaults the GM's daughter, and it kind of blows up from there. And I will say I was like kind of scared to read that from a male author, but I think he does a very stunning job of it, and it just hurts. It hurts really bad, especially Us Against You. It hurt because after reading the first book, you kind of are very connected with these characters, and Us Against You is just kind of heartbreaking. And then the next book is Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. If you know about a certain character and what happens to them, now that's very vague. You might not even know if you've read the book what I'm talking about, but it was so unnecessary, and it was so enraging, shall we say. I'm still mad about it, okay? And I did finish that book like 2 weeks ago, so like it's very fresh in my mind, but it did make me cry, okay? And it's specifically because of that stupid thing that happened to that character. I was so upset. I was so mad reading the end of that book because I thought something was gonna happen, and then it didn't. Can you tell how upset that book made me? How upset that series made me? So, it did make me cry, but it was also made me want to throw it, burn it, rip it apart, everything horrible that I can do to that book. I wanted to do it, okay? So the next thing, which is book that made you happy, and you'll notice there are a good amount of repeats, and that is because 31 books. Some of those books I really did not like. Book that made you happy, The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monika Kim. I think I already mentioned the ending of that book. Beautiful. If you're looking for like a good for her kind of horror book, I think that this is very much up there, and I know it's crazy to say that the ending of that made me happy, but like, I just like powerful women. I like, I love women's rights and women's wrongs, okay? Like, you can't fault me for that. And then the next book is, which one I just read incredibly recently, which is Exit Strategy by Martha Wells. I believe this is the 4th book within the Murderbot Diaries. The ending of this one, and also just like the arc that Murderbot has gone through on the first 4 books and is now hopefully going to go on to the next, I think there's 7 books within this, so the next like 3 books I'm very excited to read about. I think that the place that we're currently in, unless it gets disastrously ruined within the 5th book, makes me very happy for Murderbot. Okay, Murderbot is about this sec unit who hacked its own module to basically make it not just a killing machine. It's conscious of like everything else, and it just wants to sit and watch TV shows, and it doesn't want to have to protect all of these people, but somehow ends up doing that. And there's a thing that happens within the first book that carries on my dog is barking, that carries on within the next 4 books. It's kind of, they're all really short novellas, so they're like 100 something, so that's really fun. I don't know what to tell you about this one because it's the 4th book and I don't want to spoil anything about it. Most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. I should have picked these up, but Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Faridah Abike-Iyimide. I'm so sorry. She deserves so much better than that butchering of that. I'm so sorry. So this book is also a like thriller mystery, and this is the same author who wrote Ace of Spades. This cover is stunning, okay? You can't tell me otherwise, because she loves having like really cool cover art on her books, and I think that this one is just really beautiful. I mean, the bird, the girl, the building, the clouds, it's so pretty. And I forget, I think I got it at the beginning of this year from my I made my mom buy it for me. And then Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, which is the 2nd book, also really beautiful, again by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know, it's just something about the cover, the art on it is really good, and also like the blue and magenta lines that also play a part in the book. Like, I love that so much when the cover, you can go back after you're done reading the book and kind of go back and see like, oh my gosh, that's like a part of the book, or like you can actually see the characters and stuff before reading it because it helps you visualize and stuff. The next thing is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Now, like I said, I have a 25 for 25. I have only read 9 books off of it. I have 2 over 1,000-page books, and I'm starting up the fall semester by August, so I only have like 2 more months of full-on free time, and I don't have those in my collection. We're just gonna go through a quick list of this, especially, I'm probably not gonna put up pictures of all of these. I might just leave my 25 for 25 up so you can see it, because editing me is going to suffer if I try to put every single book up here while I'm trying to do rapid fire. So, what books do I need to read? I need to read The Ragpicker King by Cassandra Clare, Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater, Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, Oathbound by Tracy Deonn, Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, The Will of the Many by James Islington, Malice by John Gwynne, The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne, The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne, A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, and Sybil Byrne by James S.A. Corey. Those are all that I have to read, okay? So I have like, oh no, I should be doing math. 16 books rest to read, right? Close to that. And what's sad about this is I made it at the beginning of the year, right? Or at the end of last year. And it's like, oh, what books do you want to read? Like, what books are you excited to read this year? And I made that in December or January. I'm a mood reader, so half of these books don't even sound that good to me anymore. And now, like, I still do, like, I'm interested in reading them, but right now I have certain books that I'm, like, dying to read, and it's not on this list. Okay, I have so many books that I want to read that are not even on my 25 for 25. Okay, it's a problem, but... Okay, I do have, like, 5 of these on my shelves. I have The Hunger of the Gods, I have Songbirds, or The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I have The Familiar, I have Hellbent, and I also have read the Last Hours trilogy, which was on there. So, I'm making progress, okay, but it's very slow, and I should be paying more attention to this. But anyways, that's my mid-year book freakout. I've been enjoying this reading year, even though I know a lot of people would be like, yeah, you haven't found a 5-star yet, so it's not that fun. But again, I give them out very rarely, and I've still been having a lot of fun reading, which is the most important thing, right? Anyways, thank you so much for watching this gibberish. Thank you so much for... I don't even know. Thank you so much for listening to my very annoying voice, and make sure you like and subscribe. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you think there's any books on my 25 for 25 that I should immediately get to, or ones that maybe I shouldn't. Let me know if you loved any of these books, if you want to read any of these books, and yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.